Hello and welcome to the 29th Annual Colorado Book Awards. My name is Josephine Jones and I direct programs in the Colorado Center for the Book for Colorado Humanities. And I'm pleased to welcome you all to this celebration. I originally planned, of course, to invite you all to the Evans School in downtown Denver. And then Chris Goff made an amazing plan to at least broadcast live from the Evans School. But we decided otherwise, given the current protests in downtown Denver. We want to acknowledge the grief and anger many people in our community are feeling surrounding police brutality against Black people, both in Denver and across the United States. And we thank you sincerely for making the choice to be in community with us today, despite these immensely challenging times that we find ourselves in. And while we can't come together physically this year, I'm delighted that we can gather in some fashion to celebrate the accomplishments of today's honorees, the finalists in the Colorado Book Awards. I find Colorado literary excellence to be a renewable treasure in our state, and this is a treasure you can order locally for delivery to your home. We provided you a handy checklist to note the books you want to order. Book Bar is offering a 20% discount on books ordered through their website to anyone attending today's Zoom on Facebook Live. All you need to do is go to their event, order the finalist books you want, and put CBA 20 in the notes section. And I'm thinking they can do the mailing to all my friends too. Our sponsors also continue their support. Denver-based Outskirts Press, a longtime sponsor of Colorado Center for the Book, stands ready to help authors develop, publish, and market their books. Colorado Sun provides funding and features weekly sunlit excerpts and interviews from many of our Colorado authors' books. We want to thank them, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and all of you for being here. Since we're all online, let's use hashtag CO Humanities at Home. That puts us in a national conversation with other humanities programs, and hashtag CBA 2020 as we post about our experiences today and as we read the finalists' work. The Colorado Book Awards tagline is Write, Read, Celebrate. The authors, editors, and illustrators have devoted themselves to their manuscripts in many instances for several years. I know the creation of a book can be a solitary endeavor, and today the Colorado Book Awards wishes to celebrate and commend each finalist for his or her marvelous contribution to Colorado literature. Congratulations on your achievement. Now, this spring has been a time of reflection. Living with COVID-19 has brought daily challenges to each of us personally and to the organizations we depend on. Shuttering Colorado's museums and cultural institutions has put them at financial risk. Colorado Humanities is fortunate to be a steward of a portion of the economic stimulus funds provided by Congress through the National Endowment for the Humanities to help. We are offering CH Cares Humanities Relief Grants to public humanities practitioners and organizations. Now, the goal of the humanities disciplines, such as literature, philosophy, and history, is to encourage us to respect and understand each other and our world. The humanities are tools we use to continue to define what it means to be human. Our new focus in programs is to provide opportunities for conversation-based learning and understanding that can help us find common ground across the divides that separate us. One discipline of the humanities, literature, has always served as a window to the individual as well as the collective world. Books depict moments in history and share personal anecdotes. They enlighten us, frighten us, provide escape, and always, as we relate to characters and narrators, offer an alternative way to think. A good book makes a reader feel and takes them on a compelling journey. A great book changes people's lives. Today, we are here to recognize authors, editors, and illustrators and photographers in 16 categories. To accomplish this takes a full contingent of volunteers, talented staff, and helpful partners. Our volunteer selectors and judges are dedicated Colorado librarians, historians, writers, editors, teachers, artists, and readers. They contribute topical expertise, academic knowledge, or industry experience, and hours of reading. Then they engage in exhaustive discussions and negotiations. And for all their skill and time, we say thank you. I'd also like to say how pleased I am that our staff has been able to move quickly with Christine Goff's brilliant and enthusiastic leadership, resulting in us being here online and on time in the middle of a pandemic and a riot. Christine is amazing. I'd also like to acknowledge another set of volunteers who contribute to all of our programs, our board of directors. I'm happy to introduce and welcome our board chair, Thor Nelson.
Thank you, Josephine. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here or wherever you happen to be on a virtual basis. This is Colorado Humanities' 46th year and the 16th year the Colorado Center for the Book has been a program department of Colorado Humanities. I'd like to personally thank all of the Colorado Humanities staff who are here today and who have made this event possible. Our executive director, Maggie Koval, the director of programs and Center for the Book, Josephine Jones, the Colorado Book Awards program coordinator, Chris Goff, who Josephine just spoke of a moment ago, administrative assistant, Tanya Albright, communications intern, Nora Ridgway, and director of operations, Brenda Shingles. Everything we do is a team effort. And that's no more so evident than it is today. I would also like to thank, I'd like us collectively to thank our Colorado congressional representatives for supporting federal funding for the National Endowment for the Humanities and Colorado Humanities. And please ask them to support continued funding like this program we're doing today as an example of the humanities at work in our communities. Brent Sampson, President, CEO, and CMO of Outskirts Press, the only A+ rated and #1 rated self-publishing company, according to the Better Business Bureau and top consumer reviews, was unfortunately unable to be with us today. He has blogged recently on these changing times in publishing, and I encourage you all to read it at selfpublishingnews.com. The online news source, the Colorado Sun, also provides funding, along with publishing excerpts and interviews with Colorado authors through their Sunlit feature. Larry Rickman, managing partner of the Colorado Sun, is here with us today, and I'm very pleased to introduce you all to Larry. Maybe.
We'll try that again, sorry.
There we go.
The challenges of Zoom calls, yes? I just wanted to thank you very much for allowing me to join you today. I just want to say how proud and pleased we are here at the Colorado Sun to help support Colorado Humanities and the Colorado Book Awards. We've been thrilled to feature the work of so many amazing Colorado authors through Sunlit, which showcases a different Colorado author and their book every week. We've also been enjoying our Colorado Book Club, which we hope to get restarted in video form one day soon during these unusual times we're in. Please be sure to go to coloradosun.com and check out Sunlit. I included a link earlier in the chat if you need that. You'll find, again, just the great work by our Colorado authors, as well as what I believe is the best journalism you'll find in Colorado. It's absolutely free to read, but of course, we'd be grateful for your support if you choose to become a member. So again, congratulations to all of the amazing authors featured today, and thanks for letting us be part of your ceremony today.
Thank you, Larry. Now, I'm honored and excited to move on to the presentation of the 29th Annual Colorado Book Awards. Thor and I will announce each category and name the finalists for that category. And then we will announce the winner of the Colorado Book Award. For those of you updating your social media accounts, please use that hashtag CBA2020 today as you spread the good news about this event.
Thank you, Josephine. So I am, let me just start by saying how proud I am to be able to represent Colorado Humanities in this forum and what a great honor it is to be virtually with all of these spectacular Colorado authors. And I want to personally make sure that everyone understands the real honor that it is to be nominated and to be selected as a finalist as part of this process. Now let's dive right into it. Our first category today is Anthology Collections. These are collections of short works by different authors compiled into one book. The three finalists are All the Lives We Ever Lived, a Lighthouse Writers Workshop Community Anthology, Volume 1, edited by Dan Manzanares with Susie Q. Smith, Lighthouse Writers Workshop publisher. Secondly, Rise, an Anthology of Change, edited by Northern Colorado Writers, Northern Colorado Writers LLC publisher. And finally, Straight Outta Deadwood, edited by David Boop, Bain Publishing Enterprises publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in Anthology goes to Rise, an Anthology of Change by Colorado writers Bonnie McKnight, accepting on their behalf. Congratulations. Oh, Bonnie, I think you're still muted.
Good, thank you. Technical difficulties. Wow, thanks guys. This is an amazing honor for us. We are really excited. I'm watching all of my fellow authors and editors in our little watch party be really excited. And so on behalf of the editorial committee of Rise, I just want to thank all of the first, all of the authors who contributed. We've got 38 in this book, and each of their pieces is amazing and added a unique perspective to the story of change that we tried to tell throughout the book. And thanks to the Colorado Book Awards as well for putting this together, and all the judges. And I think I just do the reading now, right? So I'm going to go right into that. I'm going to start with a segment from a short story called The Potato Salad War by Cinder Spencer. All right. Like the other great wars our nation has suffered, it started with the union of two families. In fact, the first insult was fired not 1 hour after my sweet William was married. My memory of the wedding is stained now with the introduction to that horrible, tasteless woman. This is Natalie's mother, Irene. Irene, this is my mother, Agnes. I made the expected embrace, taking in Irene's wrinkles and mottles of gray. I had my own gray, of course, but she carried at least 15 pounds more than the excess 12 I carried, so my nerves were put at ease. So pleased to finally meet you. I could tell she was anxious, which calmed me a great deal. Likewise. The wedding was held in a garden, and Natalie glowed, a barefoot angel in the grass. I was glad to call her my daughter-in-law and believed she'd take good care of William. The sun lingered low in the sky, spreading golden luck over us as they exchanged vows. I wept, partly in joy and partly from the coronary, taking my Seamus before he could see our son wed. Fairy lights flickered in the tree canopies as the tables were set with food. A barbecue potluck seemed much too informal, given the occasion's significance, but it was too late to express further opinion. Besides, my heirloom potato salad brought a sliver of elegance to the affair. Irene and her husband Ed moved down the buffet line opposite me. I noted the loose threads around the cuff of her jacket and scoffed that, as the mother of the bride, she did not purchase a new suit. I hoped Natalie was not merely one of William's charity campaigns. His bleeding heart had brought home more emaciated cats than I could recall. It's a lovely suit, Irene. I am not without my own philanthropy. Thank you. My mother wore it to my wedding, and Natalie insisted I wear it today. She put a slice of brisket on Ed's plate and smiled. Perhaps Natalie will do the same someday, should we be so blessed. She winked at me. Perhaps. I busied myself with the greens. Give me some of that too, Ed pointed. This? I brought this. I passed Irene my Peruvian silver serving spoon. She put a small dollop on Ed's dish. He gestured for more, and she added to it. We moved down the line, filling our plates with casseroles and nervous small talk. By the time we reached the bread, I had decided I did not like Irene. It seemed her teeth were too small for her mouth. There was no relief, though, as we'd been seated together. I wished William would join us. This is good potato salad, Agnes. Ed wiped his mouth with a linen napkin. Before I could thank him, Irene turned to me and asked, "Is it from the Kroger Deli?" I nearly choked on an olive. The sharp ring of her insult hung over the table, a startling but unmistakable challenge of battle, her saccharine innocence impossible to miss. I touched the hollow in my throat. That recipe, perfected by my great Nana, takes 2 days to make. I soon excused myself and made the rounds. The rest of that story is just great as Agnes and Irene continue a feud over potato salad. And then I'll give you a little sense of our poetry as well. This is a poem called Birthing by Megan E. Freeman. In the university bookstore, she stands helpless in front of the pens. I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. After midnight, she climbs into my bed and my arms, burrowing like she's trying to get back into my body. Back to the origins of our very first night together as 2 separate beings, breathing separate oxygen, no longer nested one inside the other, separate but still clinging. I hold her and she weeps a little. In this small twin bed high on the 13th floor of this small hotel, in this small city state where she's about to launch her new big life, she sleeps in the fetal position. "It took me 40 hours to birth you," I whisper. And when we stand on opposite sides of this small planet and stretch out our arms, they almost touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Our next category is creative nonfiction, and this nonfiction genre uses literary styles and techniques to create factually accurate narratives. The 4 finalists are Chronicles of the Forbidden, Essays of Shadow and Light by John Mizalowski, Deep Creek, Finding Hope in the High Country by Pam Houston, Soft-Hearted Stories, Seeking Saviors, Cowboy Stylists, and Other Fallacies of Authoritarianism by Jenny Forrester, The Lamp Black Blue of Memory, My Mother Echoes by Sarah Adelman, and the Colorado Book Award in Creative Nonfiction goes to Deep Creek, Finding Hope in the High Country by Pam Houston. And while we bring Pam into the room, I will say that Pam's book came out when I was an impressionable graduate student, and it changed my life to hear a woman confess that cowboys were her weakness. And I am so pleased to be able to offer this award to Pam.
Hi, can you see me yet? No.
Yep. Yep. We can see you and hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay, I'm so sorry. Hi. I was sort of waiting for myself to come up on the screen. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled. I'm feeling so much like a Coloradoan these days. I have been here for 27, 28, 29, 30. I've been here for more than 30 years, but I have never been quite so here as I am right now. And it's a beautiful day at the ranch. We got a bunch of rain, which we needed so badly. So it's a hard day in America, but it's a beautiful day at the ranch. And thank you so much for this award. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say a shout out to my co-finalists, all. Jenny, I love your book. And the readings I heard the other night were wonderful. So I'm really honored. This is Deep Creek, and it's a story of how I came. I was in graduate school, and I sold my first book, Cowboys Are My Weakness, and I was paid $21,000 for it, and it was more money than I had ever seen. And when my agent handed me the check, she said, don't spend it all on hiking boots. And so I took that advice in the absence of good parenting in my own life. I took that as good parenting advice, and I went driving around the West reading from Cowboys Are My Weakness at small independent bookstores. Yay, small independent bookstores. And I looked for a home, looked for a place to put that money down. and I found myself in Creede, Colorado. After having lived in Colorado before I went to grad school in Utah, I lived in Winter Park, Fraser area and had my ski bum years there, which I loved. But anyway, I found Creede, Colorado, and a real estate lady took me out and showed me this place where I sit now and the place this book is about. And it was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. It was 12,000 foot mountains all around, a high mountain meadow, 100-year-old barn. And the asking price on the ranch made my $21,000 come to exactly 4.9%. And the realtor who showed me the place said, you know, I think Donna Blair, who was the widow who was selling the ranch, she said, I think Donna Blair's going to like the idea of you. So why don't you give me your $21,000 and a signed hardcover copy of Cowboys Are My Weakness, and I'll see what I can do. And Donna Blair agreed to sell me this ranch for less than 5% down and a signed hardcover copy of my first book of short stories. And it changed my whole life. It grew me up. It turned me into a person who can show up for things. And I've been showing up for this ranch, and it's been showing up for me for 26 years now. I guess it's 27. I guess we're right at 27 now. So it's the story of my life. And I'm going to read just a little bit from it. This is called Ranch Almanac. It's as beautiful a thing as I have ever known, living inside the ranch's almanac. How the weather shapes and dictates our lives, not just during a blizzard, but in every season. How the Leonids always follow the Perseids. How the monsoon always follows fire season. How wood follows hay and lambs follow the draining of the pasture. How lupin follows paintbrush, which follows phlox, which follows iris, which follows the arrival of the bluebirds, which follows the last day of below zero cold. There's the way the sun warms the house right after sunrise through the east-facing kitchen window. There's the smell of 250 bales of fresh hay in the barn on a warm September afternoon, and the colors in the sky over Bristol Head at dusk. A good bed of coals in the wood stove, a pot of Hungarian mushroom soup on the range, the fuchsia blooms of the skyrocket on either side of the driveway, a coyote pausing, 1 foot in the air, crossing my pasture, feet deep in snow. The smell of lanolin rising off the sheep. 5 elk beds near the creek in the back acreage, still holding warmth from the vacated elk. The tiny tracks of mice in the snow. Roni, impatient for carrots, staring me down through the kitchen window on a frigid January morning. Orion, so bright and close outside my bedroom window in February, it is as if he's waiting for an invitation. The barn, always the barn, and its roofline against the blue of the mountain. The Milky Way, appearing nightly and milky above me. Moonglow on Pinkley's cabin, on the barn roof, on the snow in the pasture on a midnight cross-country ski, the screech of a red tail, the hoot of a barn owl, the high singing of a coyote, the bugle of an elk or some other wild thing calling, a silence so big I can hear my own silence inside it. These are only a few of the ways the ranch mothers me. So thank you so much for that. I just want to shout out to my friends at Book Bar, say thank you for supporting my book and thanks for supporting this event. Thank you all so much. I'm really honored.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pam. All right. Our next award category is general fiction. These books focus on story, plot, and characterization, not typically experimental, but the category may include novellas and short story collections. And the finalists in the category of general fiction are Girls on the Line by Amy K. Runyon, Lake Union Publishing, publisher. Light in the Shadows by Linda Lafferty and Andy Stone, Lake Union Publishing, publisher. The Gifted School by Bruce Holsinger, Riverhead Books, Penguin Random House, publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in the category of general fiction goes to The Gifted School by Bruce Holsinger. Congratulations, Bruce. Oh, Bruce, you're still on mute. There you go.
Better? Sorry about that. Wow, thank you. I'm absolutely thrilled and so surprised and honored. I want to thank Chris, Josephine, Margaret, Thor, everybody at Colorado Humanities, my fellow finalists, Amy, Linda, and Andy. It's just so flattering to be in your company. And also my publisher, Riverhead, my brilliant editor, Sarah McGrath. One thing writing The Gifted School taught me is how collaborative writing a book really is. And I'm just so grateful to everyone who's been part of this book for such a long time. I guess the idea for The Gifted School came to me when I was living and teaching in Boulder, Colorado for about 9 years. It's where my sons were born, in Boulder Community Hospital. And it's where I was first introduced to the culture of competitive parenting. One of the first things that happened when our older son was born is a friend came into the delivery room, a friend of my wife, and one of the first questions out of her mouth was, what was his APGAR score? And it taught us that, from the moment that your kid comes out, they're being evaluated, they're being given a number, a score, and that kind of fed into the theme of the book, a story of friendships, families, community in Colorado, and what happens when a school for exceptionally gifted children opens in their beautiful town. The book is set in Crystal, Colorado, which is a kind of lightly reimagined Boulder, and I describe it as this friendship, a sustaining friendship that rooted them in the sandy loam of this unremittingly gorgeous place. Crystal Valley, majestic bowl of earth, stone, sky, the red irons like gods looking down, orange spikes of suspended sandstone, behind them the jagged ranks of 14ers marching along the divide. On a clear day, and nearly every day was clear, crystal clear, inhabitants like to say, Rose could still inhale the Colorado evergreens and imagine herself nowhere else on earth but here in this valley, because sometimes it was like a cult. In Crystal, everyone said or thought, we are happy, we are fit, we are woke, and even our streets are named for gems. So thank you all so much. I'm just thrilled.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce our executive director, Maggie Koval, who is joining us now after some technical difficulties. Maggie, can you turn on your audio?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, we can't see you yet.
Oh, I can see me. Let's see, I have camera on. Let's try this again. Here we go. How's that?
Still audio only, Maggie, unfortunately.
Why don't I do the next one while you work on it?
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Bruce. And the next award category is general nonfiction. And these nonfiction books might be guidebooks, educational texts, inspirational, self-help, nature.
No, come here, I need help.
Biographies.
They're not seeing me.
Of people born, but these biographies need to be of people born in the 20th century. The three finalists are Good to Go, What the Athlete in All of Us Can Learn from the Strange Science of Recovery. Sorry, I'm just having a technical thing. Taste the Sweetness Later, Two Muslim Women in America by Connie Shoemaker, Amity Bridge Books, and The Land of Flickering Lights by Michael Bennett, Atlantic Monthly Press, Grove Atlantic. And the Colorado Book Award in general nonfiction goes to Taste the Sweetness Later, Two Muslim Women in America by Connie Shoemaker.
Connie, I think you're still on mute.
I'm on.
There you go.
Thank you so much. What a surprise. I appreciate the award so much. And I really feel it's an honor to the two women that I've written about, Serene and Iman. It's a tribute to them, two courageous women who were willing to share their life stories with me. For Taste of Sweetness later, two Muslim women in America. I had two purposes in writing the book. First of all, it was a culmination of more than many of my years, half of my life, in fact, spent in an international setting, and much of it with a focus on the Middle East. During those years, I had the privilege of becoming acquainted with people from many cultures, and as these friendships grew, I grew in understanding the differences among us and rejoicing in the similarities. Second reason, I become a firm believer in the power of life storytelling. When I wrote The Good Daughter, Secrets, Life Stories, and Healing about my mom and our rather bad relationship, I discovered that encouraging her to tell me her story led to affirmation of a life well lived for her and to my understanding of what factors in her life led to our broken relationship. And that in turn built a bridge of healing and love between us. So these two factors made me realize that few people have had the opportunity to truly hear the life experiences of someone quite different from themselves. It might be a generational difference, a hidden secret, as in the case of my mom, or in the last decade here in the US, it might be a mistrust, a fear, a hatred of those who are different from us. Much of what's going on today in the streets of Denver and across the United States has something to do with this fear of the other. Difference in race, ethnicity, culture, religion, politics, whatever. And this week of protests and violence is proof of the chasm between us and them. Several years ago, when I first started to be interested in writing the book, anti-Muslim rhetoric and actions were at a high point. I realized that very few people had the privilege of actually knowing a Muslim. I hope that introducing readers to two Muslim women and hearing about their lives in their own words would build a bridge of understanding. I was already acquainted with Nisreen and Iman, so I asked them to share their life experience with me, to share their life stories. I used many of the same life story questions that I used with my mom and with me as we explored her life. Nisreen and Iman told me about their experiences at home in Iraq and Libya, and then here in Colorado as they immigrated to the Littleton, Denver area. More than 300 hours of interviews later, their stories were developed into Taste of Sweetness. Both Nisreen and Iman grew up in the grip of murderous dictators. Nisreen is a Kurdish Iraqi whose childhood was shaped by a fear of Saddam Hussein and the eyes that were watching, the continual spying that went on even from the time she was a child in elementary school, when her classmates would listen to what she said about Saddam and want to hear her say, "I love him." And also, she married a man who became an interpreter for the US Army after the invasion of Iraq. Anti-US factions threatened his life after his twin brother was assassinated. And with the help of Lieutenant Colonel Joe Rice, the National Guardsman and former Colorado Senator, the family escaped to the US and is settled here in Colorado. Fear was a constant in Nisreen's life. I'd like to read a short excerpt from her story. I asked Nisreen, as we sat in the little duplex with her and with her 2-year-old, I asked her about the experiences of her life, her difficulties in Baghdad, and how they affected her now in Colorado. And this was her response. She said, "Almost never have I lived in peace and security. Instead, I've always lived with fear. Saddam was president when I was born. But even now, I'm scared to leave the door unlocked. Sometimes when I'm upstairs and can't sleep, I think I see someone coming into the room. I didn't feel that way in our first days here because everything was new, wonderful, and safe. I didn't have to worry at all. Then we got the connection to television channels in Iraq and others in the Middle East. At times I would remember everything, and I was afraid again. She paused and had a second to give her son a hug, Hussein a hug, and then she continued. And this is what she said. Every night before I go to sleep, Connie, I do know what helps me to not be afraid. Every night before I go to sleep, I think about everything and thank God I got here and that my family is safe. I see my kids and my husband next to me, and I don't want anything else from this life. And I'd like to end with that. Thank you so much for this award and for listening to their stories.
Thank you, Connie, and congratulations. All right, our next category that we're going to be talking about is children's literature. These are books written for readers age 7, or frankly, readers like me who enjoy books that I enjoyed back when I was 7, and younger, including picture books, easy readers, nonfiction, and poetry collections. And the 3 finalists are Pup 6, oh, whoops. I'm sorry, for some reason, the screen just took over my complete script. How do I get,
Shall I take it for you through?
Yes, please. I need to figure out how to turn this feature off because it's took over the whole computer. So yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josephine.
Pup 681, a sea otter rescue story by Jean Reedy, illustrated by Ashley Crowley, Henry Holt and Company. The Fisherman and the Whale by Jessica Lannon, Simon & Schuster Books for young readers. And Truman, also by Jean Reedy, illustrated by Lucy Ruth Cummins, Athenaeum Books for young readers, Simon & Schuster. And the Colorado Book Award in Children's Literature goes to Truman by Jean Reedy, illustrated by Lucy Ruth Cummins. Jean?
Congratulations. Oh, you need to unmute yourself, Jean. Jean, you're still on mute.
How about now?
Oh, there we go.
Yay! Wow, thank you so much to Colorado Humanities and Center for the Book, to all of the hardworking judges in the children's literature category, and to all of you who love books and promote reading and literacy. Illustrator Lucy Ruth Cummins and I are so honored today. I also want to give a shout out to my fellow finalist, Jessica. I love The Fisherman and the Whale, and all of these books were just so spectacular. So Truman is the story of a very small tortoise who finds his most extraordinary self going after the person he loves. But Truman was written for all of my young friends out there, all of you young readers who every day take perhaps very small but courageous steps in your own growing up. So I'm going to read a few pages right from the beginning, and I'm going to do that with a screen share if it works. So let's give that a try. Can everybody see that? Great. Okay. So Truman, written by Jean Reedy, illustrated by Lucy Ruth Cummins. Truman was small, the size of a donut, a small donut, and every bit as sweet. He lived with his Sarah high above honking taxis and growling trash trucks and shrieking cars and the number 11 bus, which traveled south. Truman never honked or growled or shrieked at anything or anybody. He was peaceful and pensive, just like his Sarah. One day, Sarah ate a big banana with her breakfast, clipped a blue bow in her hair, and buttoned up a brand new sweater. She strapped on a backpack so big, 32 small tortoises could ride along in it, but 0 tortoises did. Sarah placed 7 green beans in Truman's dish, 2 more than usual. She kissed her finger and touched it to his shell and whispered, "Be brave." Then she left. Not to worry, she'd left before and she'd always returned. But this time, that backpack was particularly big, and Sarah looked particularly pensive. And that banana, and that bow, and let's not forget about those extra beans. That's when Truman saw something he'd never seen before. Sarah boarding the number 11 bus going south. The bus roared away. So, young readers, I hope you enjoy the rest of that book at home, the rest of Truman's story. Thank you again, Colorado Humanities, for this wonderful award.
Thank you, Jean. Our next category is juvenile literature, works of fiction, nonfiction, or poetry for middle readers ages 8 to 11. And the finalists are Spotted Tail by David Heska Wambley Wyden, illustrated by Jim Yellowhawk and Pat Kinsella, Raycraft Books. Tree of Dreams by Laura Rousseau. Okay, and then the same thing is happening to me that happened to Thor, so one moment. By Laura Rousseau, excuse me, Laura, and The Cryptid, and that's Scholastic Press, and The Cryptid Keeper by Leah Fisher, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, and the Colorado Book Award in Juvenile Literature goes to Tree of Dreams by Laura Rousseau. Laura?
Laura, if you're talking, we can't hear you because I think you possibly are muted on your end. Still can't hear you, Laura. Chris, do you want us to go on to the next?
It's probably her bandwidth. We can't. I stopped her video so that maybe we could hear her, but Laura, we need to just move. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one, but if we can keep working to try to get Laura to come back to her. So Laura, congratulations, and hopefully we're able to work that out to get your reading here as soon as we can. All right. Our next category is young adult literature. Young adult literature is written for readers from 12 to 18 years of age, although about half the readers are adults. And by confession, me as well in this category. I need to There'll be some psychological issues here I need to work on still. The three finalists are Fake by Donna Kuhner, Print Scholastic Inc. publisher. Merged by Jim Krepfel and Stephanie Krepfel, Month 9 Books publisher. There's Something About Sweetie, Sonia Menon, Simon Pulse, Simon & Schuster Children's Division publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in Young Adult Literature goes to There's Something About Sweetie by Sonia Menon. Congratulations. And hopefully we
she
get
is
this.
Not here.
Ah, all right. Oh.
Yeah, she could not be with us today. She had something very special going on that she couldn't tell us about.
No worries. Well, we will congratulate her, and hopefully she'll be able to join future conversations about her wonderful book. Josephine, do you want to take us off to the next category? Oh, and Josephine, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Our next category is mystery, novel, novella, or short story collection. All of them involve a mysterious death or a crime to be solved. These three finalists are Celtic Empire, Mike Kessler and Dirk Kessler, G.P. Putnam's and Sons, Lost Lake by Emily Littlejohn, Minotaur Books, Tracking Game by Margaret Mizushima, Crooked Lane Books, and the Colorado Book Award in Mystery goes to Celtic Empire by Clive and Dirk Kessler. Dirk?
Wow. Thank you. This is a great and unexpected honor. I appreciate you recognizing our category, which is really sort of adventure, which we kind of fall in between mystery and thriller. So apologies to my mystery cohorts, but thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'd like to thank Chris, Josephine, and all the hardworking people at Colorado Humanities for sponsoring the book awards. It is really a great celebration of writing in Colorado and certainly means a lot to the authors, young and old. I would also like to acknowledge my co-nominees, Emily and Margaret, who are two very talented writers, equally worthy of this award. And of course, I wouldn't be here if not for my father. He was a great inspiration in my life and in writing, and I'm proud to share this award in his memory. For the reading, I thought I would perform a bit of bait and switch. Celtic Empire is the 25th book in the Dirt Pit series that my father created many years ago. So to honor my dad, I'd like to read from his very first book, titled Pacific Vortex, and the very first appearance of Dirt Pit. I should note this wasn't the first book he actually had published, but it was the first book he wrote way back in the 1960s. Among the crowded beaches in the state of Hawaii, it is still possible to discover a stretch of sand that offers a degree of solitude. Kaina Point, jutting out into the Kauai Channel like a boxer's left jab, is one of the few unadvertised spots where one can relax and enjoy an empty shore. It is a beautiful beach, but it is also deceptive. Too often, its shores are whipped up by rip currents, extremely dangerous to all but the most wary swimmers. Each year, as if predestined by a morbid schedule, an unidentified bather, intrigued by the lonely sandy strand and the gentle surf, enters the water and within minutes is swept out to sea. On this beach, a 6'3" deeply suntanned man, clad in brief white bathing trunks, lay stretched on a bamboo beach mat. The hairy barrel chest that rose slightly with each intake of air bore specks of sweat that rolled downward in snail-like trails and mingled with the sand. The arm that passed over the eyes, shielding them from the strong rays of the tropical sun, was muscular, but without the exaggerated bulges generally associated with iron pumpers. The hair was black and thick and shaggy, and it fell halfway down a forehead that merged into a hard-featured but friendly face. Dirt Pit stirred from a semi-sleep and raised himself up on his elbows, stared from deep green glistening eyes at the nearby sea. So it is in Celtic Empire that our hero is still pursuing the mysteries of the sea some 50 years later. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Congratulations. And thank you, Dirk. And thank you, Clive. Our next category is Pictorial, which are books that are primarily judged, coincidentally, on their illustrative content. The finalists in the Pictorial category are Bird Parade by Patrick Lair, Centipede Press, publisher. Flatland by Tej von Bohlen, photographer, Britton Trauber, Bronze Man Books, publisher. Hollywood, Her Story, An Illustrated History of Women and the Movies by Jill S. Tejan and Barbara Bridges, Lions Press, publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in the category of Pictorial goes to Bird Parade by Patrick Lair. Congratulations, Patrick.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much. That is a real honor. And I'd like to thank everybody at Colorado Humanities for the award. I was just amazed to be included with all the talented people nominated this year. So it's a real honor to receive the award. I'd like to say a quick thank you to Jared Walters at Centipede Press for publishing the book, and also Nathan Ballingrud for writing the introduction. I also want to thank my wife and my son for allowing me to hole up in my office and work uninterrupted for long periods of time. So thank you. And I'll read a short excerpt from the book. This is the cover. It's called Bird Parade. The story is set in Colorado in the 1970s. It's a fictional illustrated coming of age story about two boys who get into some trouble. And I'll just read a little bit of it here. I know that winter is near because the sparrows are flying low over the house. Every year they take over the sky. There must be millions, maybe billions of them. It looks like a big black snake is weaving its way through the sky. Today the sparrows aren't flying over the Nelson's house or the Jenkins house. Today they're flying over my house. My grandpa built this house and my dad grew up in it. My parents bought it from my grandparents and now it's ours. It's a good day because the sky is gray and a light rain is falling. I like the rain because my sister stays indoors and I can do whatever I want. I've never seen the bird parade on a rainy day. I wonder why the birds are flying in the rain. Today is different. Last year, Dad gave me a pellet gun, and Dennis and I thought it would be a good idea to kill one of those little birds. But somehow they see the pellet coming and scatter out of the way. Dennis and I can never seem to hit one. Dad says the birds are flying south to Mexico for vacation, but I know that isn't true. Dad has gone on business this week. If I talk to him on the phone, I'll tell him that the bird parade has started. Dennis has been my best friend since 3rd grade. He's my only friend, really. We're in 5th now and sit next to each other in class. We sit right in front of Mrs. Weathers. She says she has to keep an eye on us. Dennis's family's always yelling and fighting, so Dennis comes over to my house after school every day. Together we watch the bird parade. We should try to kill a bird today, I say. And you can see it's a fully illustrated book. So I just wanted to thank everyone again for this honor. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you so much.
Congratulations.
I see Laura is in the room. Can we go back to, I think, Juvenile? Laura, are you there? Are you able to read?
I am here. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yay!
Congratulations, Laura. How many Colorado Book Awards for you now?
I don't know, but it's a huge honor. It's always a huge honor, and I'm so grateful to Colorado Humanities and Center for the Book, for the judges who put so much work into this. I'm just so impressed with all of the other finalists. I want to say congratulations to everyone. And we just are so lucky to have such a warm and wonderful writing community here in Fort Collins. And I feel so grateful to be part of it. So I'm going to read from Tree of Dreams. This book is about connections. It's about connections between nature and people spanning continents. It starts in a family-owned chocolate shop in a small town in the mountains of Colorado. And we go on a journey with the main characters to a small indigenous community in the Amazon where there is a cacao or chocolate cooperative. So I'm going to actually read a part that is it's narrated by a ceiba or kapok tree. Most of the book is narrated by a 13-year-old girl from Colorado, but it's interspersed with the point of view of this mystical tree in the Amazon rainforest. Okay, the ceiba tree. Let me tell you about my world, the world of a wizened old tree. Listen carefully. Listen with your heart. It's a different kind of listening, you see, a kind of dream listening. You know, of course, that I have no mouth for talking. I have no legs for walking, yet in silence I speak. I travel without moving. My roots soar and dive and speak with trees of all kinds. For most of my 300 years, our talk has been peaceful, a gentle hum moving beneath the forest floor. Yet lately, the soft murmur has risen to a shrill cry. So many loved ones butchered, more than ever before. This is a time when legs might be helpful, or a voice, a loud one. In 3 centuries of my branches towering and my roots delving deep, I have learned to whisper, to teach young trees to speak. I've even known some animals who have learned our tongue, humans included. Ours is a quiet language, and you must listen very closely, and you must want to hear it very badly. It often rises through the earth as you dream when your mind is drifting and open. We speak in these heart words, this invisible movement, the secret song. In the darkness within my roots, I pass along dream whispers, dream rain, dream flowers, dream pain. Here is what I must tell you. At this very moment, I feel the rumble of trucks coming closer, the whir of deadly blades, the screams of loved ones. I hope other trees pass along my plea. I hope that someone somewhere hears, someone near or far, someone with legs and a mouth, someone who cares, someone who will act, someone who will help me save my world, someone like you. And why would you care? Oh, there are more reasons than stars in the sky. So I will give you a simple, bright one. Within my roots, a treasure awaits. Thank you.
Laura, that's just wonderful. I was just thinking how many of my grandchildren deserve that book. That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for all your work. Our next category is history. And these nonfiction books include biographies of people born earlier than the 20th century and other history topics. Nighthawk Rising, the finalists are Nighthawk Rising, a biography of accused cattle rustler Queen Anne Russet of Browns Park by Diana Allen Karras, High Plains Press. The next is Scholars of Mayhem, My Father's Secret War in Nazi-Occupied France by Daniel C. Guillet and Timothy K. Smith, Penguin Press. And The Storm on Our Shores, One Island, Two Soldiers, and the Forgotten Battle of World War II by Mark Omasic, Atria Books. And the Colorado Book Award in History goes to Scholars of Mayhem, My Father's Secret War in Nazi-Occupied France by Daniel C. Guillet and Timothy K. Smith. Daniel, I see you there. Will you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Hello, Dan.
Hi, Tim, too. Good.
Yeah, how are you, man?
Great.
Good work, brother.
And you too.
Take it
I'd
away.
like to start. I'm Dan Guillet, and I'm really delighted to see my co-author Tim Smith here in attendance. I want to thank the Colorado Humanities for all of their efforts and hard work associated with the Colorado Book Awards. I also want to thank my wife, Carol, who's put in decades helping me to unearth the story of my father, and to Tim's wife, Jennifer, whose spirit and creativity has really lifted us through some of the harder moments and frustration that we had occasionally, but really to celebrate the joys that we had working together. My father was Jean-Claude Guillet, who began his 22-year clandestine service career as an 18-year-old on his first secret mission. The mission was originally scheduled for June 4th, 1944, 2 days before the Allies' D-Day invasion. However, bad weather canceled the first attempt. The second attempt was canceled when a German patrol arrived at the drop zone just minutes before the team was going to parachute in. I have a short reading from chapter 15 describing the third attempt that I'd like to read to you. It was the night of June 7th. Their plane was a B-24 Liberator flown in from RAF Harrington, the airfield that was the air base for the Operation Carpetbagger, running classified high-risk missions, dropping supplies and agents into Nazi-occupied territories. Carpetbagger B-24s were specially modified for low-altitude nighttime work. They were painted flat black and had their nose guns, belly guns, and waist guns removed to gain speed and cargo space. And also had blisters added to the cockpit windows for downward visibility. Where the belly gun used to be, they had a Joe hole. The flight was pleasant, almost relaxed. Jean-Claude had figured a better way to carry the cardboard box with his radio crystals inside of his jumpsuit. The agents played blackjack and gin rummy in almost total darkness. The warning light came on. The dispatcher hooked up the static lines and removed the plywood cover from the Joe hole. They sat with their legs dangling into it. Jean-Claude noted that Philip was looking up at the warning light with what seemed like studied nonchalance. Bob stifled a yawn, perhaps a little theatrically. Jean-Claude smiled at Violette. She winked at him. They made the first pass over terrain that appeared more wooded than open. Jean-Claude worried about getting hung up in a tree. The plane banked, turned, and made a second pass. That's when the dispatcher called the mission off. He gestured to the agents to back away from the hole. In dismay, they complied. They started to unhook their static lines. Then the warning lights came back on. The bomber's engines throttled back, and the agents heard the command action stations. They secured their static lines and scrambled back into the position around the hole. They heard the go command. The teammates yelled simultaneously, as was an SOE tradition. Merited lores, loosely translated as here goes ship. Just as Philip straightened up, pushed off, and dropped into the blackness. As soon as his shoulders and head had disappeared, Violette followed him. Then Jean-Claude, his body rigid, eyes shut tight, dropped into the night. Bob jumped last. Jean-Claude felt his parachute snap open, and an instant later, his feet touched the ground. The drop was only 600 feet, an unusually low altitude to minimize hang time and to reduce the chance of being spotted by one of the numerous German patrols. He had no sensation of free floating. He managed a safe landing, got out of his harness, and unzipped his jumpsuit as the sound of the Liberator's engines faded away overhead. He saw no sign of the others. He had landed near trees, which meant that he must be at the edge of the drop zone. And that was the beginning of my father's first mission. We are thrilled to have won this award and honored. And my partner, Tim, gets a lot of that credit. He is a gifted writer and a dear friend. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Danielle. Tim, would you like to say something?
Oh, it's a great pleasure to work with Dan. It's an honor to even be considered for this award, and we're very grateful.
Wonderful. And congratulations both to Daniel and Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next category is the category of romance. And I will take a point of personal privilege, I suppose, to thank all of the authors in this category because you fill my wife's life, as far as I can tell. She tends to read about 5 or 6 romance novels a week and loves this genre. So thank you for your efforts, and only through your efforts would she keep having new material to read every week. The category of romance is focused on romantic love between 2 people, although if my wife's books are any indication, there's always more than 2 people involved, and generally has a satisfying and optimistic ending. The 3 finalists in this category are Remembering a Witch by Lauren Connolly, publisher, excuse me, Lauren. Stolen Heart, Book 2, the North Fork series by K.L. McKee, Cameo Mountain Press, publisher. Zapata, Book 1, the Border series by Harper McDavid, Soulmate Publishing, publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in the romance category goes to Zapata, Book 1, the Border series by Harper McDavid. Congratulations, Harper.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Well, now I know why no one could get on. I see where you go, to a dark place in between. Thank you. I'm so excited for this. I really appreciate it. I want to thank my family, and I hope my mother's listening from her assisted living facility. I set it up so she could watch. So hopefully, Mom, you're seeing us. And thanks to all my friends for watching too and listening, and you guys there, Colorado Humanities and all the sponsors. I really appreciate it. I wrote this book. It was my debut novel, debut published novel, I should say. It was based on a project I had in South Texas where I was working on a geology project. There was a lot of violence there, and for some reason, I don't know why, I had never written romance before. I decided to put romantic elements into it, and that was that. So anyway, I'll read a part of this for you. Victor led them up a narrow set of stairs to a room bearing the number 2. Fortunately, her sunglasses allowed her to avoid making eye contact with him as he proudly extended an arm into the bedroom. Gaudy was the second thing that came to mind. First was no way. No way was she spending a night in this room. Her skin itched just looking at it. She shot Alejandro a dirty look in the mirror headboard designed to resemble a Mayan temple. The base of the temple was a collection of greasy imprints from the heads of previous guests. The mattress slumped woefully in the middle. Any more sag, and the thing could be mistaken for a canoe. Even all the small town motels that she stayed in for work couldn't hold a candle to this place. Alejandro and Victor talked loudly and laughed as she stewed. Finally, Alejandro slapped Victor on the back and shut the door behind him. Defensively, he held up 2 hands as he turned to her. Look, before you say anything, I need to explain. He sank to the bed and she hoped the whole thing would curl up and swallow him. People know me in this town. If I parade someone like you into a nice hotel, word will eventually get around. Someone like me, she spit the words as if they were shards of glass. Come on, Avery, you know what I mean. Men notice you. Not just men, people notice you. Because I'm an American? Yes, because you're a gabacha. His voice was low, his tone patronizing. And don't be coy. It's not just that. You're beautiful, and you're not the And certainly I'm not the first to tell you. So thank you.
Thank you, Harper. I'm so pleased to let everyone know that Maggie Koval has made it in the room, the Executive Director of Colorado Humanities, and I will hand this off to her to announce the poetry finalists. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for stepping in and taking on my role as I was having technical difficulty. And I want to thank you, Harper. Congratulations to all those I missed along the way here. And we will keep going forward. And if I lose my connection, I'm sure Josephine will step in again and help. The next award category is poetry. These book-length collections of poetry are written by a single author. Chapbooks of at least 30 pages are eligible. The three finalists are How to Dress a Fish by Abigail Shibitnoy, Wesleyan University Press. My Brother's Keeper by David J. Rothman, Lithic Press. Variations on Dawn and Dusk by Dan Beachy Quick, Omnidon Publishing. And the Colorado Book Award in poetry goes to How to Dress a Fish by Abigail Shibitnoy. I hope I'm saying your name right.
You are. Hi. Sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath. This is so incredible to be nominated for this award and to be in the company of my mentor, Dan Beachy Quick, and David, whose poetry I look forward to getting to know more and be more familiar with. I think I first came out to Colorado in middle school from Pennsylvania on a trip and knew then that I wanted to live here someday, but it wasn't until grad school that I knew just how rich the literary culture is all along the Front Range. And it's just so incredible to be a part of that. The first goal, I guess I recall having as a kid was to study authorism and write books. And so to have my debut collection met with such wonderful, I guess, support and encouragement is just really incredible. My book, How to Dress a Fish, is a bit of a reckoning with the subjectivity of history and the disruptive effect of the United States indigenous assimilation policies as they pertain to attempted erasure of my own family's heritage, but also the marginalization of non-dominant voices, which seems like a really prevalent theme these days to push back against these dominant narratives and to open up the conversation and redefine what narratives are and can be validated. And so I am going to read this poem titled Regenerating Landscapes. Thank you so much again. 1. I buried my bones, no trace was left. I buried my bones and the landscape became settled in its disturbances. There's no telling where the hand that digs might unearth the outline of a dwelling place, the shape of ivory in the process of becoming human. It is not evident. I buried my bones in the fault where they were of little consequence, more matters to settle in the end. The land remembered only now. I want to live somewhere old in the earth. On the water now there are many boats, but the vermin they are hunting is dead with metal feet. His pelt is already sinking out of reach, old in the water. Let me sink mine in enough earth to bury me. 2. Mother, it was my fault. I buried each of my other selves until I couldn't see the earth was full. I was born in this wound, Mother. Singing made it so. Steel singing, destined men singing mercantile songs, manifesting swindling songs, singing say you see, singing beautiful spacious skies, singing the brave in dread silence reposes. You sang this land for me, Mother. Each night I must find a new way to lay these arms stiff under the weight of my body. I don't know what I expected, but at length I found myself alone. I found myself apart in a room of my own making, susceptible to drowning, to cave-ins. I couldn't hold a shape, my own among so many bones and matter besides. The field turned relic into me. 4. Like this, Apak, can I wear these faces? Which way shall I bend these bones? Does my skin show these furs? Do my metal feet bear too much weight? Can I bend my arm in light of morning? Can I bend them in name for what I now believe? 5. Return every last bone to the land. I will shape my body in the sound of wave breaking the shore. If singing made it so, these days will not be many now. 6. I wonder if you hear me, Apak. I wonder if I say your right words. Michael, will you row the boat ashore and dig a womb-shaped home? With my arms for your arms, for all the word-worn arms, until the waters breach our skin and sink these bones in their weight in the sand, to begin again without blood in the print. Kayana, thank you so much again.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. All right, moving on. Our next category, consistent with my theme of enjoying the juvenile and young readers, my favorite adult category is this one. So thank you all for those who write in this category on behalf of fans everywhere. So our category is science fiction and fantasy, stories that take place in worlds that have never existed or are not yet known, that often defy some known or supposed law of nature. And the 4 finalists in this category are An Illusion of Thieves by Kate Glass, Tor Books Publishing; Denver Moon, Book 2, The Saint of Mars by Warren Hammond and Joshua Viola, Hex Publishers; The Blood of Seven by Claire L. Fishback, Dark Doorways Press, LLC Publisher; and The Legend of Carl Draco by Gary Riley, Running Meter Press Publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in Science Fiction and Fantasy goes to An Illusion of Thieves by Kate Glass, Tor Books Publisher. Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't express how wonderful and exciting this is. Back in 2017, after 18 years of publishing epic and mythic fantasy, I wanted to try something different. And as you probably all know, it's a scary thing to leave the comfortable. But thanks to my agent and my editor at Tor Books and my friends and readers, it happened. And then thanks to all of you, I feel this affirmation from this wonderful Colorado community. So what's different about An Illusion of Thieves from my other work? About that time when I wanted to do something new, I ran across an episode of the old Mission Impossible, a spy caper adventure TV series. And as an author's mind is wont to do, I said, what if? What if this kind of ensemble intrigue occurred in a world of my own making? Maybe something like the Italian Renaissance, but with magic. Because I still love writing fantasy, because I believe every human story can be told in a world of our own making. So maybe forbidden magic would happen here. I wanted a small group of sorcerers, their skills and their relationships would be at the heart of each adventure. And as happens for unfortunate occasions when you're starting a new work, the leader of this group introduced herself immediately. And here's what she says in her own words. I was born Romy, eldest of 13 children my parents could not afford to feed. One brother and I, out of those 13, were born cursed with the taint of magic in this world that believes sorcerers are a monster's get and must be eradicated. From an ignorant, filthy child of 10, procurers at the Moon House groomed and educated me into a person they named Cataline, a courtesan of impeccable wit, taste, and manners. But inside, I was always scrawny, starving Romy, terrified that either my tutors or the fearsome man to whom I was gifted at 15 would discover the corruption I spent every hour hiding. After 9 years, when I fell from the Shadow Lord's grace and was banished from his house, it was pitifully easy to become Romy again. But Romy needed to become smart, tough, and practical. An Illusion of Thieves is the story of Romy's fall and rebirth and how her group of misfits gets together and discover that they can carry off a sophisticated caper that no one else in their city can do. But first, Romy has to deal with how to get her next meal and with a 15-year-old brother who is illiterate, obstinate, and dangerously reckless. So she finds work as a scribe, and after a lot of trouble, she thinks she's found a solution to the problem of her brother. And that's what I'm going to read a little bit, where she meets her first accomplice. Well, her second, counting her brother. Okay. Humph. The grunting swordsman filled our open doorway. Your place here, unexpected for the beggar's ring. But for the accuracy of his sentiment, one might easily doubt that Placidio de Vasil's swollen, seeping eyes could take in the details of my household. The rest of him was no more promising. He reeked of wine and urine. An angry scar creased his face from eye to the clotted rat's nest of black hair on his chin. Grime and grease disguised the colors of his cheap doublet. Yet my expectations were not entirely correct either. First glimpse said he'd run to fat, but the buff jerkin and leather breeches hugged a big frame layered with muscle and sinew. The taverner had called the duelist old man, but not even his unhealthy skin would mark him past 5 and 30. Be welcome, swordmaster. I motioned him to step inside. You're no lawyer, are you, Romy of Lizard's Alley? He asked, lip curled enough to twist the ugly scar. His glance scoured my shelf of pen cases, ink flasks, and stacked parchment. Why do you care what I am? I said, more curious than annoyed. 'Tis unsafe to have me waving a blade near vermin. Truly, many citizens had reason to be wary of lawyers. Biddies, I'm but a lowly scribe, I said, and it's my brother Neri will be your student. Student? My brother arrived in our doorway as if his name had summoned him. He scowled at the slovenly man whose height topped his by the length of his forearm. Neri set a stack of clean parchment on the table. I know how to swill wine well enough. Senor de Vasil comes recommended, little brother. Supposedly he teaches better than he washes. We'll hope. My jab slid off the man, whose bleared eyes took Neri's measure in turn. Neri fretted that he'd not yet reached even my height. A scrapper, are you, boy? Mostly fists and feet and lose more'n you win, I'm guessing. But you've a new blade at your belt. The swordmaster extended a scarred hand that could enclose an infant's head entire. Let me see it. I do all right. Neri glared at me and clamped his hand on the metal-bound sheath that housed his new dagger. Don't need a new teacher, Romy. This'n looks more like to steal the blade than to know what's to do with it. I jerked my head sharply in the direction of the duelist. Show him. Only an idiot would leave her fool of a brother at the mercy of a drunkard swordmaster half again his size and infinitely more skilled. But I also had hours of copying to do before the next morning. I needed to get a sense of the swordsman quickly, and if he seemed promising, see their first lesson done. Grudging, Neri passed over the dagger. Placidio examined the grip, quillion's edge and point as a physician explores skulls, tongues, and urine. Well chosen, he conceded, a good length. But what need has a beggar's ring, boy, for a new blade and finer skills? Have you acquired a new enemy? 'Twould likely be cheaper to hire me to fight than pay me to train a hothead to skewer a dunderwit. You don't look like a man who could teach anything fine, said Neri, his forehead scarlet. The duelist rolled his eyes at me as if to say, you see? So the fellow's perceptions were not entirely dulled. He has no particular enemy, I said, as Neri smoldered, but the world is hard and dangerous. We've recently lost our father, and my brother approaches his majority. Experience has taught me a great appreciation of the sword's discipline. I thought perhaps a sword master could impart something of that discipline to my brother, though doubts gather about you along with the flies. Ebullient laughter burst from him like crisp new wine from a new opened cask, only to be swallowed quickly. Can't argue that now, can I? He said, harsh and low. So where shall we retire to give this a try? I'd hate to splatter blood on your parchment, Lady Scribe of Lizard's Alley. So thank you very much. And the affirmation means everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. We really appreciate you participating, and congratulations. The next award category is short story. These books contain works of fiction that can usually be read in one sitting and focus on a self-contained incident or a series of linked incidents with the intent of evoking a single effect or a mood. The three finalists are April Warnings by Mark Pleiss, Belly's Books, Not a Thing to Comfort You by Emily Wortman Wonder, University of Iowa Press. This is Love, Love, Love by Jennifer Wortman, Split Lip Press. And the Colorado Book Award in short story goes to Not a Thing to Comfort You by Emily Wortman Wonder. Congratulations.
Can you hear me? I can't see anything.
Yes.
Wow, well, thank you so much. This is actually a little unexpected, and I'm a little unprepared. But thank you so much to the Colorado Book Award, to Chris, to Josephine, to Thor, and to Maggie. And thanks to my fellow nominees, Jennifer and Mark. It was a close competition. All right, I'm gonna read from my stories. As I talked about when I read this from this book for the finalist reading, these stories come from my background as a wildlife biologist. I worked as a wildlife biologist for most of my 20s, in and around mostly Glenwood Springs, and then also over near Durango, Colorado. And something that has struck me my entire sort of biological career has been the contrast between how biologists talk the talk, they quantify, they measure, but they all were drawn to biology, particularly wildlife biologists were drawn to biology by kind of this a chance to connect with the ultimate mystery of the other species and nature and wilderness. And many of my stories kind of take place in this space where they are figuring out, you know, what is real, what matters. And so I'm going to read to you an excerpt from my story, The Endangered Fish of the Colorado River. This is about a fisheries biologist who is dealing with the death of her adult son, kind of coming to terms with it. And he died after a fraught relationship between them. She gave up being a mother to return to doing this conservation work on the Colorado River. And so it takes the form of a series of naturalist, takes the form of a field guide to the 4 endangered fish of the Colorado. And it begins, each section begins with sort of a very clinical description of each of these fish and ends in a totally different, much broken apart place. I will read the very first section of this story. Colorado pike minnow, Pedochellius lucius, slender, cylindrical, with an endless body and a long pointed snout. Once so abundant, it was called the poor man's meat. It was devastated by dams and invasive species. Predicted to go extinct in my son's lifetime, but as it happened, outlived him. Once the fish grew big as deer and filled the river so thickly you could hear them swimming from shore. So say the old timers, at least, the ones who gave it its first English name, the squawfish. Even into college, Max would call it that to needle me. But also, I think he just loved that name the best. The way it squawks off the tongue, 2 brash syllables to the prim mouthful of what we call it now. I secretly agreed. Despite the history of the name, despite the misogyny and racism twisted into it like runoff in a river, the squawfish always felt like my fish, the subject of my senior project, my master's thesis, my early years of field work. I was working on the squawfish when I met the engineer. In the long, dry years after Max was born, the fish was renamed the Colorado pike minnow, but that name always felt like it belonged to someone else. Max as a baby was gummy, devoted, irresistible. The way his starfish fingers reached out to grab my eyes, the way he grunted as he nursed, the way he crawled into bed with us in the middle of the night, all the way into kindergarten, the way he adored Russian fairy tales and colored pencils and baby birds, the way he would line up all of our shoes, pair after pair, curving over the sill and out the door. All of this, and I still felt the pull of the river, like an undercurrent of despair. I thought I would never be able to leave him until I did. I was an inappropriate mother from the start. Squawfish, I explained when Max was way too young, means, roughly, cuntfish, trashed fish, fish as easy to reap as the tribal women. Like them, though, it held something of itself in reserve. Given half a sandbar and a bit of flood, the pike minnow made its comeback as stealthy as a woman slipping back into her old haunts. Like me. This was the story of my life, the one for which I thought Max would eventually forgive me. Left my dream job to marry an engineer, had his baby, lived a sensible decade buried in the suburbs, and then, against all odds, clawed my way back to work with the pike minnow, its resurgence mirroring my own. And that is the end of that section. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Emily. Okay, our next award category is thriller, with fast action plots, thrills, and danger added to the crime fiction novel. And the 3 finalists in the thriller category are Black Pearl, A Cold Case Suspense by Donnell and Bell, Bell Bridge Books, Bell Books Publishing. The Extinction Agenda by Michael Lawrence, St. Martin's Press publisher. The Dead Girl in 2A by Carter Wilson, Sourcebooks publisher. And the Colorado Book Award in the thriller category goes to The Dead Girl in 2A by Carter Wilson. Congratulations, Carter.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. So thank you to Colorado Humanities and Center for the book. Thank you to my fellow finalists, Michael and Danelle, great company to be in for sure. And a special thanks to the judges and, of course, their willingness to accept Venmo in these times of social distancing. Of course, I'm kidding. In seriousness, I have a huge appreciation for the judges. It's a tremendous effort and time commitment, short amount of time. I think in lieu of doing a reading, I'm just going to do a quick intro to the book. I wanted to write about 2 things in this book. I wanted to write about memory and how it haunts people, and I wanted to write about the Colorado mountains. And knowing that, I had nothing else in mind. I don't outline. I usually just start with an opening scene that I have no idea what it means. It just appeals to me, and I spend the rest of the book trying to figure out what that scene means. And in this case, I had a man and a woman sitting next to each other, strangers in first class on a flight from Boston to Denver, seats 2A and 2B. And they each have this this visceral sense of knowing each other. I mean, even to the smell. And I wanted to see what that conversation would look like. So I wrote that conversation, and they explored what they had in common during their flight from Boston to Denver. And they had very few things in common, except for the fact that they realized they were both orphaned when they were about 10 years old, and that neither of them had any memory of their childhood. So I just kind of threw that out there, and I finished the scene, and there was something missing. So I went back, and I realized that as the plane was landing, I wanted the woman to confess to the man that she was going to the Colorado mountains to kill herself, because that created this sense of relationship and responsibility almost that I wanted to kind of explore. So that was all I knew going into it. And it was a real mess of a book. And about halfway through, I almost gave up because I didn't know where it was going. Took a month off, tried to piece it all together and figure out where it was going. And finally got the results that I wanted. And I really enjoyed writing about Colorado, which I don't do very often. So thank you very much. I have true appreciation, and just very, very happy for the award.
Thank you very much, Carter. Sorry, I didn't get back in there quickly enough. I had to unmute. Thank you very much. Always enjoy your books. So it looks like we're at our final category already. Of course, it's been a rather short program for me. I appreciate, again, everybody who pinch hit it for me. Our final category is literary fiction, often understood to be symbolic or thematic, strives for an emotional response, and is intended to aid our understanding of the human experience. The three finalists are Burn Fortune by Brandy Homan, Clash Books is the publisher. If the Ice Had Held by Wendy J. Fox, Santa Fe Writers Project published. You Who Enter Here by Erica T. Worth, Excelsior Editions, State University of New York Press, Albany. And the Colorado Book Award in literary fiction goes to Burn Fortune by Brandy Homan. Congratulations, Brandy.
Thank you. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Wow, this is crazy. I really would like to thank the Colorado Humanities and Center for the Book, of course. I would like to thank my publisher, Clash Books, my family, all the other finalists, and I mean all the other finalists from all the other categories for trying to lift each other up with words, which is no small task. Okay, this book, Burn Fortune, the protagonist is June. She's 16 years old in the 1990s Midwest. She is looking for alternatives to the lives of the women around her, whose lives are so different from the men around her. She discovers Jean Seberg, the French New Wave actress, and Joan of Arc. But she also detassels corn. And for those of you who don't know, corn detasseling, you literally walk through the aisles of corn and you pick the tassels off the top of the seed corn, and you do it so that the quote unquote female corn doesn't pollinate itself. And that felt like a particularly apt metaphor sometimes for what it feels like to grow up female. I'm gonna read a short piece from this, and it's called Dreaddell, and it's dedicated to my mom. Love you, Mom. Dreaddell. A new kid shows up the last week of the detasseling season. Not just any new kid either. Dreaddell is a freak. During band practice, Dreaddell aims the spit from her trombone at your feet. Her nose leaks too, so she wears a bandana like a dog. Her neck every day, that bandana. Her initials embroidered in used-to-be white thread. She's wanted to be called by those initials, Dee Dee, since birth. Come lunchtime, Dreaddell eats with us in the midday sun, sitting in dirt at the end of the field. I'm so fucking sick of bologna, Jeremy says. He picks it from his sandwich and throws the slimy slice to the ground in front of Chet. I don't want your goddamn bologna. Chet nudges it with his sneaker to my boyfriend. Fuck you. My boyfriend picks the slice up at arm's length, slings it away. Soil encrusted, it lands in front of Marcy, who squeals. Christ, guys, Jeremy says, it's just bologna. He tosses it straight up and the bologna lands in front of Dreaddell. Dreaddell looks at the meat on the ground. We look at Dreaddell. She wipes her nose with her bandana and gathers the remnants of her tuna sandwich into a plastic baggie in her lap. She scoots a few feet away from the lunch meat. Then, instead of looking at Dreaddell, or even at the grody bologna, we look where Dreaddell had been. In the dirt is a round, rust-colored smudge 6 inches across. It looks like a field kitten was murdered. Nobody moves. We stare, overheated sandwiches in our hands. After a decade, Jeremy chokes into a laugh, Chet snorts, and Marcy bursts into giggles. Dreaddell turns to look, snot down her lip. She looks back at her sandwich, sets it aside. She leans in toward the spot. Dreaddell begins writing. With a flat index finger, Dreaddell writes in her own menstrual blood. Dee Dee, she writes, plus a scraggly, lopsided heart. She rubs her finger in the dirt, wipes it on her overalls. She picks up her sandwich, continues eating. After, nobody feels much like working. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brandy. Congratulations again. I want to thank you, Thor, for participating. And I know you've been a long-time fan of the Colorado Book Awards, and we loved having you actually participate and give awards this time. And hope we can do this again, maybe in person in the future. But thank you very, very much for all your work and time on this. I also want to thank Chris Goff, Josephine Jones, Tanya Albright for your planning, your production smarts, your quick adaptations to make this all possible. It's just been fabulous, and good job to everybody. How about some applause for all of these fine folks? So congratulations again to all of the Colorado Book Award winners and finalists. If you have any of that cocktail left, I do. How about a toast to all of the wonderful writers for the 2020 Colorado Book Awards. Congratulations. So don't forget, Book Bars, 20% discount on books ordered through their website to anyone attending today's Zoom or Facebook Live event. You would go to bookbardenver.com, order the finalist books that interest you, and put CBA 20 in the notes section. Award winners, if you would please stay in the Zoom room, we would like to invite you all on screen so we can capture this historic moment. And we do have packets for all of the finalists and winners with certificates and plaques and other goodies, and we will be mailing them out to you in the next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the 29th for the 29th Annual Colorado Book Awards. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe and stay healthy.